So this morning, it gives me great pleasure to welcome and request Major General Sanjeev Sharma. Please put your hands together as I request him to kindly articulate his thought and guide us with his vision for the future.
Good morning, all. First of all, I must thank ICRA for making this happen, the startup of Mahakumbh, and giving us from defense an opportunity to put across a point perspective of what we're looking from the startups and the industry in the field of defense equipment. You all aware, actually, for very long, our country has been dependent on foreign military suppliers for very basic needs of the defense equipment. And once this happens, you need to get the maintenance contracts with them, and then once this equipment has outlived its life, and then go back to them again. It's a cyclic process, and this has been happening despite we having the DRDOs and the ordnance factories and the DPSUs. And this kind of over dependence on the foreign suppliers also gave them leverage actually to not give us always the best equipment, maybe at little overpriced prices, and also getting governed by the geopolitical either alliances or the compulsions of that time. Now, why this has happened? This has happened because there have been inherent capacity deficiencies in field of defense research, as Professor Ajay Sood was bringing out the deep tech basically, which is a lot of requirement of deep tech inside the defense equipment also, and the manufacturing in our country. What is happening over last few years, there have been highly enabling policy decisions coming by the government and initiatives like Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the government has also focused approach towards Make in India. It's giving us great advantage, and I feel the time has come for us to move forward, especially in the field of defense, towards self-reliance and self-sufficiency. So what has happened in defense, we've already seen what has happened, the liberalization of the FDI is happening. The capital procurement schemes, we are looking more towards buying the indigenous equipment through Buy Indian routes, and if you're aware, there are schemes like Make One and Make Two, which encourages the indigenous industry. And then we have got positive indigenization lists. What it does is it puts an embargo for import of the equipment, so that we are forced to actually look at the indigenous sector. That encourages the indigenous sector, and the equipment comes up as per our requirements. And then within the defense, we have been launching schemes like IDEX. If you heard, IDEX is primarily the innovations for defense excellence. What we do is basically we engage startups and MSMEs in this. This is specifically for the startups and MSMEs. Large number of problem definition statements we already created, it released year after year. And over 300 startups have got engaged in this. And multiple contracts have been signed. In fact, we are right now running through a process called the emergency procurements, which also gives an opportunity for the startups to actually pitch in and showcase their prowess and get them those contracts. We actually do understand this is because startup, there's a process. When you look at the processes like IDEX, actually it permits some kind of spiral development. We understand, as Professor Sood also bringing out, there has to be appetite of little bit of failure here. No, this is the fail forward concept is getting kind of imbibed through the IDEX schemes. We have been giving an opportunity to give a spiral development platform that you go as per the milestones, and a bit of failure here and there is acceptable. And then the government has also been ensuring there is a higher allocation of the industry-led R&D. So what it puts us to, that there's a need of hour for the Indian industries to look at the initiatives which are coming from the government very carefully and seize these initiatives. The intent should be to make the country Atmanirbhar for our defense needs. So there have been some really good initial successes by the startups in this, and the development is highly encouraging. We're working with some startups in field of quantum technology, and we have actually led to very successful trials with them. You know, the quantum is a breakthrough technology, and it is disruptive also. And the need of our for defense, anything coming disruptive is actually always welcome. And what is here for industry is that the range and the depth of the equipment which the defense needs in terms of military equipment and technologies is huge. So what it does is it creates space for everybody, big and small. You are an innovator or even a system integrator, and you are either dealing in the conventional kind of warfare equipment, or you're dealing with something which is unconventional and disruptive. And we've been talking about drones this morning, in fact, and with the warfare, it's changing character with what is happening in Russia and Ukraine, with drones coming into play. Drones are bringing lethality as well as battlefield transparency. Similarly, battlefield transparency is also coming up with the small constellations like LEO and other satellites coming up, and there's a huge scope for actually startups to contribute there. And then there's a deep techs like high energy or the dense energy weapon systems. What I want to say is the demand for this kind of technology is always evolving, and it will be ever increasing. So what is required for us is, I think as an industry needs to look at focus and get more interfaced with the defense requirements, create capabilities first, and with the capabilities we need to create capacities. As because both superior capabilities and capacity will naturally result in the superior combat capabilities of our forces, which is any combat force would want that. And if I take a particular example of the form of warfare, cyber warfare is which instantly applies to all startups actually. The cyber and the information warfare, and we know our northern borders. Our northern borders, the enemy sitting there, his prowess and the way he works in this domain is very well known. So what do? Therefore, there is a requirement that we need to adopt homegrown techniques, which are techniques which are innovative, bring in technology which are homegrown and apply it so that we have ability to challenge his prowess in this domain. So we are looking forward to this kind of customized technologies which meets our requirements, our country's requirements, and the enemies which facing on our borders. As I already brought out, the government on its part is doing its best to provide a realistic level playing fields to the smaller players, to the domestic players, to the startups, to the MSMEs. Various policy guidelines time to time are getting issued on this. But what also, my current domain is the bread and butter domain is the procurement at this stage. What we actually get a little concerned is about the white labeling happening. As I was discussing some of you in the morning today, the white labeling is actually very opposite of what we're looking at Atmanirbhar thing, and it is detrimental to the spirit of indigenization. So it is for the forums like this actually to look at this this white labeling thing and maybe internally put in some kind of procedures in place that it doesn't happen, and it will also be actually detrimental to the very genuine guys actually who are working in this and the smaller players who are themselves innovative, and they'll get discouraged because somewhere we pick up a technology which is already evolved outside and bring in, put a white label and sell it as a exploiting the guidelines which are given to the government. There are requirements which are coming out. We always going through the open tender routes. There are defense portals which are there. You were all requested to have a look at that. There are various forums which are coming up like this. You're most welcome to interface. We are very open to this. And the entire environment today appears to be looking towards the Atmanirbhar and looking to inculcate the prowess of which the startups like the forum which is sitting here, they are bringing the prowess, they are bringing in here, and we would be very happy that we can put this kind of prowess into the field of defense. And once that happens, actually it will actually translate into sustenance of the military systems indigenously. And obviously that helps a country in increasing the resultant war waging capability. I generally hope we soon see a day where we are transformed from net consumer to net producers actually, and maybe to net exporters for most of our defense needs through your startups. Thank you so much.